Welcome to New York Post Studios in Midtown Manhattan. I'm Mark Hale. We've got spring training action. The Mets are down in Port St. Lucie. So is Joel Sherman, our baseball columnist. We're going to do our triple play with Joel. 3 questions. Here we go. Joel, all the Mets fans want to know about Travis d'Arnaud, the new catcher that they brought in for R.A. Dickey. You've been there a little while so far. What have you seen out of d'Arnaud? What have you heard about d'Arnaud? What's your early assessment of d'Arnaud?
Yeah, I think one of the most important items that has come out early in this camp is the Mets have been impressed by his catching. That was the element that they were a little worried about at least. But he's a little more athletic than they thought he was. He's better at receiving. I think they have pretty high confidence that he's going to be a good offensive catcher in the major leagues and that the finishing touch is health. He's had some problems, especially with his knee, and his catching. And so far, healthy, better defense than they thought, and they're seeing all the elements of the bat that they like. So this is kind of a postcard for the future. There's no doubt that the 2013 Mets struggle more not having their 2012 ace, R.A. Dickey, but d'Arnaud is giving them some hope that this trade could work for them, which was always a future trade.
Joel, every year, every team has pleasant surprises, and then they also have the unpleasant disappointments. Can you share with us somebody that you've seen so far that's impressed you, and then maybe somebody also who hasn't impressed you?
You know, Mark, in a lot of ways, it could be the same answer, and it says a lot about who the 2013 Mets are. You know, right now, 2 guys who are really hitting the ball well for them and making stakes to play a lot in the regular season are Marlon Byrd and Colin Cowgill. On the other hand, the fact that Marlon Byrd and Colin Cowgill are going to be parts of at least platoons in center and right field says something about the state of the Mets outfield, their offense, and their roster in 2013. Marlon Byrd is available to the Mets because he had a .488 OPS last year and failed the PED test and was suspended for 50 games. He's 35, 36 years old. He might hit 5th on the team, something he hasn't done in his entire career on a regular basis. Colin Cowgill was the 7th outfield possibility in a 6-man rotation in Oakland. Oakland, you know, a small market team, is so loaded with potential outfield DH kind of guys that they're moving Brandon Moss to first. They're going to move the DH around with guys like Seth Smith and then 4 set outfielders. And so Colin Cowgill was available to the Mets because he simply was not part of that look that the Oakland A's were going with. And so he's here. So great news for the Mets. 2 guys who they need to be part of at least platoons in the outfield have started off well here. Bad news for the Mets. Those are guys who have not been very good major league players for a while.
Joel, last thing for you. How big of an issue has Terry Collins' contract status been so far in camp? And how big of an issue do you expect this to be throughout the regular season?
You know, Mark, I think it bears monitoring, and we're going to find out if Terry Collins is being kind of set up or scapegoated. If you're sitting and watching this day by day, it's hard to make a case how the 2013 Mets, considering what their strengths and weaknesses are and what the strengths and weaknesses of the rest of the division are, how that team does any kind of serious contending this year. And I think one of the things you always have to worry about is these last few years under Terry Collins, the Mets have broken out of the gate relatively well. They've played about 500 ball for half a season and kind of built up hopes. Hey, if things go well, maybe they could even make a run at the playoffs. And then there was these utter collapses in the second half as the reality of their depth or lack thereof really set in. Well, you see the lack of depth right now, especially in their everyday lineup and potentially in their bullpen. And what if they have their second half first this year? What if they open up 20-35, that kind of run? And fans are angry, and Sandy Alderson is trying to explain how in year 3, this is the group he's put out, and ownership is watching the stands empty more and more, potentially not even maybe get to 2 million fans this year. Do they scapegoat Terry Collins, or do they say, hey, you know, you can't make a good poker hand out of bad cards, and he has bad cards, and he's doing the best he can, and we think he's the right guy to shepherd it through. So the question is, do the Mets in their offices really feel that Terry Collins is the guy to take them from point A to Z instead of just somebody to kind of be a placeholder until they're potentially ready to win in another year or two with guys like Zach Wheeler, Matt Harvey, Travis d'Arnaud, etc., and then they're going to bring in the finishing manager. So I think if the Mets have that bad start, we're going to get a very good view of what Terry Collins' bosses think of Terry Collins.
All right, as you said, it's something to monitor throughout this season. That's Joel Sherman for us. You can read him all the time on nypost.com. You can also follow Joel on Twitter at JoelSherman1. We'll have much more from Joel, obviously, throughout spring training during the regular season, as well as all our baseball people. So keep watching our videos at nypost.com. For Joel, I'm Mark. Thanks for watching.